Can I fire a board member? This is a fun one. I actually have gotten this one a couple of times recently because of all the probably weirdness that's happening with companies and boards and the markets and things of that nature. So yes and no. Yes, you can fire a board member if they're an independent board member, if they're somebody you've asked to join the board, if it's any one of those kind of scenarios. They're pretty straightforward. You go to them, you talk to them, you say, hey, the markets have changed, the company's different, your services are no longer needed. It's a pretty classic thing. They just terminate and they vest whatever they vest, et cetera, et cetera. No big deal. Can you fire a board member who comes from an investor who put money in the company? Likely no. That is not something you can do. You can likely swap out a board member, but you can't get rid of the firm behind the board member. You took money from that firm. That comes with a set of obligations. One of them, if it's written in the contract, is they have a board seat and they get to assign typically who is at that board. Now, you wanted to say in the best of times that there's some sort of agreement between the CEO and that firm about who's on the board, but it doesn't have to be that case. They can assign somebody else to that board seat if they want to. So if that person's not working out and you don't like it for whatever reason, you can go to the firm and you can say, I'd like to swap somebody out for this. But you can't get rid of the firm behind the investment. That is one of those things that's incredibly difficult to go do. And when you hear about it, it makes the news. How is the head of product different between a startup and a larger org like GitHub? I'm going to augment this and I'm going to add a third. I'm going to say startup, medium-sized company like GitHub, and then a large-sized company like Microsoft or Yahoo or Google or Facebook or whatever it is. Here's how I think you can benefit from thinking about the differences. At a startup, it's typically the CEO or a founder. And what it's all about is bringing an idea to life. The founder got the energy, the vision, maybe not able to articulate it, working with customers, working with prospects directly, pushing this. Basically something that shouldn't and doesn't exist in the world, they're trying to bring through. At a medium-sized company like GitHub, something does exist already. And likely what has happened is the founder stepped out and they brought somebody else in. Well, that person who they brought in likely is spiritually aligned with the founder and probably has more depth in the domain. They may not have the original vision and they've got more managerial experiences and they're probably a better leader. They're not actually trying to increment, they're trying to expand. They're trying to keep it going as fast as possible and expand it into broader applicable areas. They're really trying to take this to the full extent that they possibly can. It's almost like the founder birthed the idea, birthed the thing, and then this is to take it to its natural conclusion, bring it all the way to its highest and fullest form. Now, the difference between GitHub-sized and a large company is that that's likely happened. It is in its largest and truest form. So now what has to happen is it becomes a much more incremental job. The head of product and the entire product organization is like tweaking and tuning and moving bobs and pulling small levers. And there's probably a large product organization very specifically focused on each individual incremental area. This is also why a lot of early stage product folks never work out well post acquisition at large organizations, because they're used to having a wide purview of an entire product line or an entire market or segment. And then ultimately they're being asked to tune dials or change colors or do very specific market research or XYZ on a very small slice of the product. And you got to think of these things across the entire spectrum. One of the challenges I see most often is that I talk about organizations playing company, and startups think that they need to get bigger and they need to play like they're Microsoft. And I genuinely think nobody in the world should ever think that they're playing like a megacorp like Microsoft until you actually are a $1 trillion entity. If you understand that spiritually, a company that's about the size of GitHub, which is multiple thousands of people, is actually more tuned to a startup size in terms of the way they're supposed to pace and the way they're supposed to collaborate together and the way they're supposed to organize themselves, you would not try to do too many of the same sort of weird machinations that we assume we need to do as we grow a company.